Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. Wednesday, May the 17th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. I see John Edward, Will Hall, Xavier, Travi, Stephanie Lee, Brendan M., Rebecca, Ethan. What's going on, y'all? Appreciate you all tuning in. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel. Make sure your questions are answered there, guys. It is a therapy Wednesday, as much as one as we've had in quite some time. I promise we will take all of your questions, your comments, your calls, your reactions, your rants, your venting, whatever it might be, in the third hour, in our power hour. Emphasis on that power today. We'll take all of those questions, comments, and calls. Call in, chime in, 843-790-3377. If you cannot call in between the hour 2 and 3, if you can't call in our third hour, call in anyways and leave a voicemail, and we will air that voicemail in the third hour. Of course, guys, I'll go back to all of your questions, comments, calls. We'll take those because, of course, I know a day like today. I even thought about switching. I even thought about swapping the power hour to the first hour because I know there's a lot of takeaways. There's a lot of thoughts. Fans are on edge right now, and it's totally understandable. So, again, please flood the phone lines, flood the text line, flood the comments and the chats, if you will, and we will go from there in our third hour. Again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in here on this Wednesday. We got a lot to dive into, lot to dissect. Of course, JD PicKell of On3 Sports. He will also join the show in our second hour, his first appearance. He will be our weekly Wednesday guest. So really excited for that. And again, guys, our third hour will be our power hour. We'll take all your questions, your comments, and your calls as well. I'm trying to think. I think there was something else I thought of. I do want to say, guys, thank you all so much for the love and the support on the podcast side of things, right? The Spurs Up Show on podcast feed, podcast version of this show. You can find iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Guys, we've gotten great feedback on the way we are now distributing the podcast on a day in, day out basis via those channels. So again, keep the feedback coming. And again, thank y'all so much for showing love and support. Also want to say again, just thank you guys so much for the love and support we felt all week long. It truly means the world. And I feel like there was something else I was forgetting. I don't know, maybe not. My brain is scrambled eggs right now because let's go ahead and get into it. Again, please flood that voicemail line, that text line, the comments, and I will go through all of those questions, comments, and calls in the third hour. It's time for me to face the music. It's time for me to stop, look in the mirror, and be honest about this South Carolina baseball team. The Yardcocks stink right now. The Yardcocks stink right now. And I don't want to sound like someone that's flip-flopping, if you will, because just yesterday, and I feel like over the last couple of weeks, I've been someone who has remained as positive as I possibly could. And guys, one of the reasons I've done that is because we've all seen it, right? In the game of baseball, things can turn very, very quickly. They can also go off the rails very quickly, but things can turn very quickly. And so I wanted to believe coming into this week, a pivotal week for this program, for this team, if you will, for many reasons. I wanted to believe that the turnaround was coming, that the upward swing, the upward trend, riding the ship, however you want to phrase it, I wanted to believe that was coming. And I will say, to be fair, I saw some writing it off on social media. It's just a midweek. It's no big deal. And I hear you. I get where you're coming from. But you're going to have a very hard time selling that to a fan base who has watched this ball club go from 34-6 and ranked 3rd in the country to now 37-15 and just fighting to cling to a hosting bid this postseason. You're going to have a hard time selling that. So South Carolina could very well rally the troops, circle the wagons, go out and sweep Tennessee this weekend, and the mood will be much different. But let's stop playing the hypothetical game. Let's stop talking in hypotheticals. As we sit here today, right now, not based off of opinion, not based off of anything, based off of what has happened on the field over the last couple of weeks. A couple of weeks ago, you could have argued this was the best team in college baseball based off of what was happening on the field. And I've preached about it a lot. Keep the energy consistent. Keep the energy consistent, right? Don't just be there in the bad times. Don't just be there in the good times either. So let's keep the energy consistent. A couple of weeks ago, a month ago, you could argue this is the best team in college baseball. Right now, the way this team's playing, this team is playing like a team that doesn't deserve to host. This team is playing like a team that just flat out stinks. Just stinks. Call it for what it is. And I've tried to be as positive as I possibly can. And guys, I admit to you all, you've probably heard me say this before. I very selfishly do that because I love Carolina baseball. And I want to see Carolina baseball be great. I don't want to be the fire the coach guy in baseball. I really don't. I don't want to lead with that energy watching this ball club, watching this program, a program that, again, guys, you know, back 04, 05, when it first really clicked for me, right, being a fan on the baseball side of things especially. You know, football was end of 02, beginning of 03. How much Carolina baseball was I really watching them? Baseball wasn't really televised at that point. But, like, I recall Disher, Smoke, Darnell, Havens, Harris, Honeycutt. Like, the list goes on and on. And the elite tradition and the greatness of Carolina baseball. So selfishly, it's why I waited so long last season to say anything about Mark Kingston, because I'm like, I don't want to be the fire the coach guy. I've been the guy. I was the fire Will Muschamp guy for 2 years. And as crazy as it may sound to some, as good as it was for business in regards to just putting TSUS and putting yours truly on the map, it became very exhausting. So being the fire the coach guy, it's not the most fun stance to take. For example, it's much more fun to be the beamer ball to the moon guy. I can assure you. Anybody who thinks differently, you know, there's some out there that think I really get my rocks off by calling for a coach's job. I don't. I can assure you I don't. I would much rather be out here celebrating and dancing on the graves of those we dispose of because we are so good. And I am not sitting here today calling for Mark Kingston's job, believe it or not. I'm not doing it. I will wait until season's end, until the dust is settled. Because this team is going to the postseason, guys, one way or the other. This team's going, whether they go on the road, they host a regional, they're going. This team's going to the postseason, 100%. So there's baseball to be played, and I will stand by what I said in the preseason. Super regionals are bust. And if Mark Kingston and this coaching staff, if they somehow get these guys out of this rut and they guide them to a super, I'll tip my cap. And I'll say, you know what? Mark Kingston, at least based off what I said in preseason, has earned his way back. He's earned his way back. He deserves it. He deserves it. And you know what's crazy too? This is just kind of a side note. I look back at my preseason predictions, guys. I had 34-22, 15-15 in SEC play. Those are my predictions before the season started. February the 15th is when I dropped those. Eliminated in the regionals was my pick. A couple of weeks ago, that sounded foolish. This team was 34-6. We laughed about it in the Big Cock Club Discord. There's no way that'll happen. No way. Look at where we sit right now. If Carolina gets swept this weekend, and if they keep up the type of play we saw last night against Charlotte, it'll happen. We'll be right at the 15-win mark. I'll be 3 games off the prediction for the season. Wild how that works out. Anyways, the Yardcocks stink right now. Just flat out. Across the board. You can talk about injuries all you want. You can make all the excuses in the world. This is starting to sound from Mark Kingston very much like last year. It's starting to sound identical to last year. And I know that there's injuries on the bump. I get it. Noah Hall's out. He's out for the year. I don't know why Kingston won't just say it. He's out for the year. It's announced this morning Eli Jerzenbeck is out for the year. Chris Veach is apparently dealing with something in his hip. I don't know if he hurt his hip or his pride got hurt because he pitched like shit last night. I don't know. Other injuries on the mound as well. Guys, to me, that's not a good excuse. That's just not. Not when you bragged about your quality pitching depth all preseason long. Not when Will Sanders, your quote-unquote ace, and I know he's hurt, but not when your ace hadn't pitched worth a damn all year. That's what happened. He was great as a freshman. He's been under your tutelage for 3 years. He's gotten worse. So what has happened? What has happened? And because of that, you've had to slide Eli Jones to Friday, who would normally pitch in the midweek, who maybe comes in instead of an Austin Williamson or a Chris Veach, and it's no slight to those guys, but maybe Eli Jones comes into that spot, doesn't give up the runs, and you escape with, let's say, a 9-7 win. But you know what? Maybe people would have been disgruntled and upset. We didn't play well, but at least you would have won. At least you would have won. And by the way, can we stop scheduling the Charlotte 49ers? Carolina's lost 3 in a row to these guys. Enough. No more Charlotte. I'm good on playing Charlotte ever again. Don't need it. It's tough to find the words today, guys. The only thing that can cure what we are all feeling is winning. That's the only thing. Because right now, the way it's trending, this is trending to be one of the most epic collapses in South Carolina sports history. That's the way it's trending right now. I mean, you had a ball club that, again, top 5 in the country, 34-6, top of the SEC. And I wish I had a good answer for you all. I know Kingston will point to injuries, and I totally get it, man. There's been shuffling in the lineup. But even when you swept Florida, you weren't fully healthy. You weren't 100% healthy. I mean, Will McGillis has been out since the Missouri series. You have not been at 100% for quite a while. I understand Braylon Wimmer got hurt, which I agree was a big knock on this club. I understand Talmadge Lecroy dealt with an injury. I get that. And there's been some shuffling. I totally understand. But I don't know what's happened to this team. I don't. And I know those guys in the locker room are frustrated. We saw the stuff this morning on social media. Fans are going at players' parents, and Cole Messina's chirping them on Twitter, and just madness. I have one prediction for this weekend that I know will come true. The slapdickery at Founders Park this weekend is going to be at an all-time high. So if you're going, just be careful. Be careful. But I've tried to be as optimistic and stay as positive as I possibly can. And believe it or not, guys, on a day when nobody wants to hear it, still in the back of my mind, I say, you know what? There's still baseball left. And it can turn like that. It can turn like that. It really can. And maybe there's just a part of me that I refuse to believe. I refuse to believe that version of this ball club we saw a couple of weeks ago that swept Florida, that looked like the best team in college baseball. Like, I refuse to believe that team isn't still somewhere in here. It's the same guys. And I'll say this too, the expectations are what they are, and Mark Kingston's fate, it will happen no matter what I say or you say, guys. If there's, as I mentioned last year, there's no gray area with this program. If you don't win, I don't have to say anything. Look at the right field wall. Like, the tradition is what it is. If you don't win, you're gone. Flat out. We don't even have to say anything. So Mark Kingston's fate will be decided. It'll take care of itself. I start to maybe look at some guys on that team, in that locker room, and we're not in there. Kingston saying last night after the game that the morale is good. Sure, but what has changed? Did some guys get a little fat and happy after beating Florida? Did some guys feel like, well, we're playing unranked Auburn, unranked Kentucky, no big deal. We're South Carolina, man. We're the best team in college baseball. Like, coaches get too much of the credit, too much of the blame. The players are the one out there throwing the pitches, playing the game. What has changed? What's changed? I know baseball's a funny game. I know it's cruel. I get it. I know that. Sometimes you go out there and you can't miss. Sometimes you go out there and you want to quit the game. It's that frustrating. It's a lot like golf, right? There's some days you're feeling it and some days you feel like you've never played in your life. I've had those days myself. Some days you play great, and some days you say, I'm going to sell my clubs and go buy a tennis racket because I'm the worst golfer to ever exist. My other question is this, guys, and again, I'm just reaching for things. I'm just reaching to figure out what the hell's going on. Did we get carried away early on with this team? Did we get carried away? You go through the SEC slate. You swept Georgia. They're terrible. You swept Mizzou. They're terrible. You took 2 of 3 from Mississippi State. They're not very good. Again, I'm just going off the standings, guys. They're not very good. They're not going to be in the postseason. Not even going to make the SEC tournament. You took 1 from LSU, and you looked really good in that ball game when you did it. Notice I didn't include, by the way, the non-conference slate. Because you took 2 of 3 from Clemson, but guys, the rest of it, you should have beaten those teams. Who gives a damn? You mean to give you credit for sweeping Bethune-Cookman? You took game 1 against LSU, which was great, but you blew game 2, and game 3 didn't get played. So you come out of that series with kind of the narrative might be a lot different had you lost 2 of 3 there. Anyways, you split that one. You lose 2 of 3 to Vandy. No shame in that. At their place, they're very good. You sweep Florida. That was the big weekend for Carolina, where it all went right. Won game 1 in 7 innings, right? We watched that game at Fort Mill. Shout out to my Fort Mill Gamecocks. Won that game in 7 innings, then you win 5-2, 7-5. Then the stretch we have seen occurred. Lose 2 of 3 to Auburn. Lose all 3 to Kentucky. Lose to North Florida. Lose 2 of 3 to Arkansas, which again, no shame in it, but because of the situation you're in, it's just adding more fuel to the fire. And then you turn around and lose to Charlotte. My question to you is this. Did we get out ahead of ourselves? again, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on because I don't understand how at one point this season, I thought this is arguably the best team in college baseball, and now this team might not even host a regional. I don't understand it. I'm trying to make sense of it. And again, guys, you're not going to get a fire Mark Kingston anything from me until the season is concluded, until the last pitch has been thrown, until the last game has been played. I'm not going there yet. I don't want to go there yet. I want to see how it plays out. I want to see how it plays out. Because one of two things will happen. One of two things will happen. I know a lot of people are just ready to burn it down and cancel the rest of the season. Well, guys, here's a news flash for you. You ready? Breaking news. That's not going to happen. It's not. They got to play the last 3 regular season games. They're going to the SEC tournament. And get this, they're going to the postseason. Those games are going to be played whether you want them to play them or not. So ending the season early, quitting the season, it ain't going to happen. But one of two things are going to happen. Either this team is going to just have some sort of Augie Garrido speech, some come to Jesus moment and play like the team I feel like we know they're capable of playing and have a great turnaround. I'm not even saying sweeping Tennessee. Just go win 2 or 3. How about that? A sweep would be great. I mean, at this point, just winning 1 game feels like it'd be great. But anyways, this team is either going to pull their heads out of their asses and start playing good baseball and have this great comeback. The Charlotte game is going to serve as the moment where things changed, or it's going to continue to go down in flames, and this season will forever be remembered as one of the greatest collapses in South Carolina athletics history. One of two things is going to happen. And at this point, guys, I don't know what to think. And maybe this is some of my garnet glasses coming out, right? Because I want to believe that this team this weekend, and we'll talk about this Tennessee series tomorrow in full detail, and you guys will know my prediction. I want to believe that this team is going to bounce back and show that resiliency that we've seen all year. I want to believe that. It's hard right now, though, because right now this team stinks. I mean, this team flat out stinks. Just not a good baseball team. That's it. It's nothing personal. It's not being a hater. It's not being a toxic fan. Right now, today, this team stinks. I've been very patient. I've been very kind about it. I've given benefit of the doubt. I've been as positive as any over the last couple of weeks. That didn't work. So maybe it's just time to call it for what it is. This team stinks right now. And I hope somehow these words spark some great turnaround. I hope that's the case. Because we all want Omaha. That's what we want. That's what we all want. But right now, this team is acting like it doesn't even deserve to be in the postseason. This team stinks right now, and something's got to change. It's got to change quickly. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, guys. Hell, maybe it's the coach. And if that's the case, we can't have that until season's end. But something's got to give. You've done too much good in this season to have it in this way. Too much good has happened to have it just go out in flames. So we'll learn a lot about this ball club this weekend. We'll learn a lot. This team's been resilient all year. Do they have one more punch in them? Or is this it? Is this how it ends for the 2023 Yardcocks? Guys, let's go ahead and jump into our first break of the day. On the side, we'll keep the conversation going. And please, flood the phone lines. Flood the comments, the text, everything. It's a bit of a therapy Wednesday here. We'll keep the convo going on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Wednesday, May the 17th. 2023. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Like I said, guys, I know you have a lot on your mind, a lot to say. And when I want to hear it from each and every single one of you. So be sure you call that number, text that number, 843-790-3377. And we will play everything and get to all your questions, your comments, all that good stuff in the third hour, in our power hour. Also, stay tuned, guys. My good friend JD PicKell of On3 Sports, he will join me to talk all things South Carolina, SEC, and college football. But in the meantime, let's keep the conversation going, guys. I'm going to get off of baseball because I know we'll probably spend most of the third hour venting about it, talking about it, and I sort of just said my piece on that. But again, of course, we're going to get to everything you guys have to say in that third hour. But I want to take the conversation from baseball to football. Shane Beamer said it best last week. The transfer portal giveth, and the transfer portal taketh away. And the transfer portal can also be very, very cruel, as we are seeing right now. The Gamecocks did a great job about a week or so ago filling their void at the edge position in Jatius Gear, a position of need, right? We all knew that was absolutely a priority to fill that through the portal going into the 2023 season. Now the attention shifts from the edge position to the running back position. And I told you guys after the spring game, and I said it all throughout the spring, that I didn't think it really mattered who shined in the spring game. Because with all due respect to everyone currently on the roster, I think most of us felt that RB1 was not on the roster yet. Meaning that South Carolina would attack the transfer portal to find a proven Power 5 ball carrier that, if nothing else, could come in and provide competition, quality depth, and most likely earn the starting job. Well, yesterday, the Gamecocks took a major hit in that regard. Is basically right after we got off of this show, Logan Diggs announced his commitment to the LSU Tigers, which didn't serve as much of a surprise, seeing that he grew up 75 miles from Baton Rouge. But we thought to ourselves, you know what, he left once to go to Notre Dame. Maybe, just maybe, he'll do it again. No, instead he returns home. He is headed to LSU. Demi Sumo Carganbay, the NC State running back transfer, announced his commitment yesterday to Kentucky. And Kevon Lee, the Penn State running back transfer, also announced his commitment late last night to Mississippi State. So the question now is this, guys, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know exactly who's left, who's available. Per J.C. Sherbert yesterday, there's a laundry list of guys who are still available in the transfer portal in regards to running backs. But the question is this. It appears the Gamecocks have swung and missed multiple times in this portal cycle, especially at the running back position. So now the question becomes, where does South Carolina go from here? Is there somebody out there who's going to fill the need? Or maybe we had it wrong all along and the Gamecocks will go into this season with what they've got. Can South Carolina make it work with the guys they have? And I feel like we're almost diving into my position unit preview series a little bit early in this conversation. But just to remind you all of what's currently on this roster at the running back position. Junior Juju McDowell, redshirt senior Mario Anderson, graduate player Dante Turbo Miller, redshirt sophomore Nathan Harris-Wainick, sixth-year player DJ Twitty, redshirt junior Bradley Dunn, and redshirt freshman Chase McCracken. Also incoming, and maybe this is the answer, 4-star freshman Dontavius Braswell, who will enroll, I would assume, this summer just before fall camp gets going. Dontavius Braswell, a 4-star prospect out of the state of Georgia, Sandersville, Georgia, Washington County High School, 5'11", 200 pounds, so he has good size. Was a .9128 on the 24/7 Sports Composite. The 16th ranked running back in the 2023 class, the 21st ranked player in the state of Georgia. He chose the Gamecocks over schools like Boston College, Louisville, Nebraska, had an offer from Alabama, Austin, PA, Buffalo, Florida Atlantic, Florida State, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Kansas State, Kentucky, Liberty, Minnesota, NC State, Oregon, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Virginia. That's a pretty solid list of schools. So maybe Dontavius Braswell is the answer. And I think if nothing else, guys, when you look at that list of schools who offered this kid, and you look at the current roster, I think it almost guarantees, and oh, by the way, I forgot to mention DeCarrion Joyner, who's not listed as a running back on the roster, but obviously played in the spring game and is going to factor in at that position. DeCarrion Joyner factors in as well. But back to my point, I think what this guarantees, if South Carolina does not go to the portal, if they cannot find someone in the portal that they want to take, I think it all but guarantees Dontavius Braswell is going to see a lot of playing time as a true freshman. He's going to see a lot of playing time. I will say this, guys, the Gamecock Nation, just be prepared. And I know Gamecock Nation doesn't care, and having a chip on the shoulder is nothing new for this fan base. But just be prepared. We talk about preseason magazine season, right? Which will begin in the coming weeks. And with most of these preseason magazines, if not all, you will see them do a position unit ranking of the entire SEC, of every conference, right? But in the SEC, right? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and they'll rank all the position units. Just be prepared to see South Carolina at 14 when it comes to running backs. Just be prepared. If South Carolina does not go to the portal, if they don't find a guy or a guy they want to take, let me make that very clear, because they could probably just go out and get whoever, but are they able to find a quality player, not just somebody who's going to fill a jersey? Well, you got Juju McDowell, 5'9", 180 pounds. I don't think it's a hot take to say he's not built to be an every down back. He's not going to run the football up the middle, at least effectively. We saw that last year. Okay. Mario Anderson from Newberry, go Wolves. 5'9", 208 pounds, showed some flashes. Is he ready to take that on? He's been an RB1, just not at the Division I level. Showed some glimpses in the spring game. I think speed of the game and adjusting to it will be the key for him. Some have mentioned Dante Turbo Miller and DJ Twitty as possible candidates. Realistically, guys, are those guys SEC caliber in your opinion? I say they're not. It's no disrespect, but I say they're not. I wouldn't classify them as SEC caliber running backs. Would you? Nathan Harris-Waynick, great kid. SEC caliber running back? I don't think so. Bradley Dunn and Chase McCracken? Same thing. DeCarrion Joyner's the really interesting one. How does he factor in? Could he be the every down back? Well, guys, we might not have a choice. We might not have a choice. And J.C. Sherbert, I thought, said it well yesterday. I think they'll be able to kind of duct tape and glue this thing together just enough. And I thought my good friend Brad Crawford of 24/7 Sports had a great tweet yesterday, basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing, this all but ensures South Carolina is going to be a pass-happy offense this year. They're going to be practically an air raid. Maybe that's a little bit aggressive, but 70-30 pass to run, is that too aggressive? I know they want to be balanced. I get that. And I think you can get creative in the running game. DeCarrion Joyner's a great athlete. There's things he can do, no doubt. But do you have enough at the running back position to have real balance? And I guess the thing that now worries me, if, because we got a long way to go, the thing that worries me, if you don't pick someone up from the portal, just looking ahead of the 2023 season, are you going to have enough balance and enough productivity from whoever your running back is, whoever your running backs are? Are you going to have enough productivity to not be one-dimensional? Because I don't care how good Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells are, Trey Knox, Nick Harbor, Eddie Lewis, Xavier Legette, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't care how good they are. If you're one-dimensional, they don't have a chance. You got to have at least some threat of running the football. And guys, I would say this, South Carolina finished outside the top 100 in rushing offense last year, having to replace 3 linemen and not having a true RB1. Feels like it damn near guarantees that's going to happen again. Again, there's a long way to go. There are players out there. I'm sure there's some. Shane Beamer's always got a plan. He's always got a plan. Maybe DeCarrion Joyner's the answer. Maybe Mario Anderson's the answer. Maybe Juju McDowell. Maybe Dontavius Braswell. Again, that's the wild card, I think, because we haven't seen Braswell. Maybe he is. A lot of good schools wanted that kid. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating watching player after player after player, quality players, proven RB1s in the Power 5 level, watching these guys choose other schools. And it's why? Why is it happening? Does it have to do with NIL? It certainly can't have to do with playing time. Because I know what Shane Beamer said. We're not out here guaranteeing starting spots to anybody. But you're going to have very real and honest and transparent conversations. Hey, our running back room, our running back position is wide open. It's wide open. It's yours for the taking, my friend. We're not just going to give it to you, but you come in, do what you need to do. You're going to put yourself in a real good position to be our guy. So it'll be interesting to see just what do Beamer and company do. Are they content with who they have? Hey, all we got is all we need. Are they content with that? And if they are, I mean, so be it. Maybe they know something we don't when it comes to who they've got in that room right now. Maybe they know something we don't. Is there somebody out there they're targeting? Again, guys, I don't have the full laundry list of every running back available in college football right now through the portal. But you got to find an answer because there's got to be some balance this season. And right now, there's just not a true RB1 on this roster. I mentioned it after the spring game, right? I mentioned it post-spring game. I'll mention it again. There's a lot of nice supporting cast pieces right now. That's not a knock on anybody. Bro, being an RB2 in the SEC is, you're a good football player. But you need that number one guy. When it's 3rd and short, 4th and short, we're in Athens. It's growing crazy. And it's 3rd and goal, and we need to score. Who are we giving it to? Who's getting the ball? Who's toting the rock? Is that guy still out in the portal? Is it a guy on our roster? Is it Dontavius Braswell? Only time will tell. Guys, let's jump into the break. On the other side, we'll keep the convo going. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in here on this Wednesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, welcome back. Hey, thank y'all so much for tuning in here on this Wednesday, this hump day, May the 17th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you. Again, the love, the support, man. TSUS would not be what it is, what it's becoming without your love and support. So again, guys, thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Again, we're going to keep the combo going. Do not forget, we got JD PicKell of On 3 Sports joining us in hour number 2. And of course, hour number 3, we're taking all your questions, your comments, and your calls, your reactions to everything that has happened over the last 24 hours or so. So please flood the voicemail line, the text line, the comments in the YouTube chat. And guys, also thank you so much for making the transition from, changing up the show, right? We were on Facebook, we were on Twitter, we were on Twitch, now exclusively on YouTube. Thank you all so much for making the transition seamless. Based off the numbers that we see, everyone for the most part is accounted for. Everybody's here, tuned in, rocking and rolling, vibing with us. So again, thank you so much, man. The support means the absolute world. We could not do it without each and every single one of you. Guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on with the conversation here. And I want to get into this. As we all saw, and over the last 24 hours, the quote-unquote Magnificent 7 schools that are planning on leaving or want to leave ACC. The ACC is basically just crumbling before our very eyes, right? The ACC is crumbling. Schools like Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, Virginia Tech, all seeking a new home. And we've talked about this before, typically in the offseason, right? Because it's one of those conversations where I think in the past, it didn't really have a whole lot of basis or foundation behind it, right? Because it was like, oh, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. That's just the talking point that gets us through the offseason and gets us through the summer and we get closer to kickoff. But that'll never actually happen. Well, guys, with realignment and the way college football is changing on a daily basis before our very eyes, there is a good chance that at least, I say in our lifetimes, but in the next couple of years maybe, there is a chance that the team in the upstate, the orange and purple, Clem sucks, could be joining the SEC, along with others, by the way. I think Florida State, NC State, those could be some good ads, good options for the conference if they do want to continue to expand, which they do, because, again, that's the way college football is going. But it's interesting when you ask the question to fans, would you be open to it? Would you be opposed to it? Like, what are your thoughts on Clemson joining the Southeastern Conference? And the reaction is normally always pretty split. You got some people who I think are unfazed by it. You got others who are very much so against it. And I think where that energy comes from is because a lot of Gamecock fans think of South Carolina being in the SEC as like the advantage that we have over the Tigers. We're in the big bad SEC, y'all in the ACC, and like that makes us better than you. As you all know, guys, like I'm not a conference guy in the sense of like my team is better because of what league they're in. Like South Carolina's not getting up on the SEC shoulders and like, look how tall I am. Like that does nothing for me. I pull for other SEC teams to lose in bowl games and other games and what have you. And that's not because I dislike them. It's just because I want the best for South Carolina and everybody else. It's kind of like whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some schools you have some warm spots for, but you guys get what I'm saying. Not a conference guy, not like got to pull for Georgia to win the national title because it's the SEC. To hell with that. To hell with the conference pride thing. That's a conversation for another day. But I'm not opposed at all, guys, to Clemson joining the SEC. I'm not opposed at all. I would welcome it. You think about it. Like, think about that. South Carolina plays the Tigers every single year anyways. Would it not be cool for that game to mean something for the conference? Like, can you imagine that game coming down to, or your season coming down to, or winning the conference, going to the championship game, however the format is, coming down to that last game? I mean, Carolina Clemson doesn't need any more hype, hoopla, meaning, anything. Those two teams, as we all know, could be 0-11, and the stakes are going to be through the roof. But can you imagine adding that layer to it? The other reason, or one of the other reasons why I'd have no problem with it, you notice I don't talk about Clemson's schedule a whole lot, right? I just think it's one of those arguments, it's one of those conversations that is very exhausting because, in my own personal life, I believe in control what you can control. Don't spend time worrying about things that you can't control. Focus all of your focus on what you can control and let the rest take care of itself. Too often people worry about things outside of their control and they create situations, scenarios, stresses, anxieties that don't even exist or don't need to exist because you worry things outside of your control. So when it comes to like the schedule, I'm a hater of the orange and purple just like you all. But even I sometimes stop and say, like, they play who they play. I mean, they're in the ACC. They play who's on their schedule. So the schedule conversation to me just gets tiring. Shouldn't be blaming Clemson for the weak schedule. Should be blaming Florida State, Miami, and Virginia Tech, and NC State, and Duke, and everybody they play for not being good, for not being better. They come to the SEC, that goes out the window. It's like, okay, you wanted the smoke. You've been asking for the smoke for quite some time. Here you go. Here it is. Come get the smoke. If you think you can go 10-2, 11-1, 12-0 in this conference, doing it the way you've done it for so long, I mean, guys, if you don't think being in the ACC, I'm not saying this is the whole reason, but even if you're a Clemson fan, you have to be able to admit that, like, you look at the South Carolina program and the Clemson program back in 2012, 2013, whatever. You have to admit that being in the ACC versus the SEC at that time helped Clemson's ascension as one of the best programs in college football. Were there other factors? Sure. Absolutely there were. Clemson had a young, up-and-coming head coach, and the Gamecocks, unfortunately, as much as I love Steve Spurrier, had an old coach on his way out. But in the ACC, you can be an average team and win 8 games. You can be just slightly above average and win 10. Bro, in the SEC, you can be a really good team and win 7 games. You can be a really good team and win 6 games. The league's just that tough. And it's something I've mentioned before that while Carolina was winning Outback Bowls in 10-13 or 11-13, Clemson was winning ACC championships. And that might not mean a lot to folks, but you know what? A conference title is a conference title is a conference title. And the best players in the country, they want to go where the winning is. They want to go where they can get a ring. A lot of them do. It's a hell of a selling point. But that would be removed now. Bring them on. Hey, bring it on. You want the smoke? Come get the smoke. You want the smoke? Come get the smoke. I just simply, I don't buy the narrative that the Gamecocks have this huge advantage just by being in the SEC, and that all of a sudden, like Clemson coming over to the SEC would take away that advantage. Now, don't get me wrong. There's an advantage. If there wasn't an advantage, Clemson wouldn't want to join the league. But, I mean, Clemson's like a SEC team in the ACC anyways. They check off, guys, as much as we all hate them, they check off all the boxes. They check off all the boxes of an SEC team. But I say, why not? I mean, why not? Adds more emphasis to one of the best rivalries in college football, in college sports, by the way. It makes them put their money where their mouth is, talking about the SEC and the scheduling, and hey, let's see it. Let's see it. And I think it increases the value of the league. I mean, guys, you don't think Clemson coming over to the SEC, what they're going to bring, you don't think that actually helps the Gamecocks bringing in more money for the entire conference? I mean, I understand how it's like, okay, now you can't use we're in the SEC, they're in the ACC as like a recruiting chip. But, I mean, was that recruiting chip really – I mean, do you really think, like – let me ask you this. Like, how often are kids choosing South Carolina over Clemson just because of the SEC argument? I mean, maybe some are. Maybe some. But I doubt many. I doubt many. So I'd be all game for it. I'd love to see it. I mean, this probably isn't going to happen for years. It's probably going to take quite some time for this to come to fruition, but I'm open to it. I'm not opposed to it. I know many are. And I'm not saying that I'm actively like wanting it, like come on. But I'm not someone who is going to be devastated and raise all hell if and when this takes place. Because, guys, I think with this whole conference expansion thing and the realignment and the way college football is changing, it's not an if thing. It's a win thing. I think it's absolutely a win thing. I think college football is going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to grow. I mean, it's growing like many of us never even would have expected. So I say, why not? Game on. Bring it on. I mean, I thought Shane Beamer said it well when Texas and Oklahoma was announced they were going to join the SEC. Bring it on. You come to this league to play the best. And I look at it this way, guys. You got to play them every year anyways. Adding another layer of just more emphasis on the game, I think it'd be awesome. Doesn't hurt Auburn, Alabama. Doesn't hurt Georgia, Florida. Doesn't hurt many of the best. Ohio State, Michigan. Doesn't hurt that rivalry. Do the Gamecocks have a huge advantage being in the SEC versus them? Does it matter? I mean, it didn't matter in the 2010s. It didn't much matter then when they were winning national championships. If anything, they're going to get more money, sure. They get to put an SEC patch on the jersey, sure. But if anything, guys, maybe being in the SEC and facing an SEC grind week in, week out, maybe it brings them back down to earth a little bit. Maybe it actually helps in that regard. Maybe it takes them off of the pedestal, that pedestal they've been on. And what would also help, the Gamecocks making it 2 in a row this season. Putting together a winning streak. Establishing, I'm not even going to say dominance because you're not going to beat them every year, but establishing control of the rivalry. The Gamecocks don't need to win 5 in a row against Clemson, guys. They need to win 6 or more over the course of a decade. Control the rivalry. Control the rivalry. Guys, we're going to jump into a break. On the other side, we're going to get my guy JD PicKell of On3 Sports on the show. Very excited. His first appearance on TDC. And yes, this will be a weekly thing as JD joins the show. Guys, all that and more on the other side of the break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho, Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho, Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Appreciate you all tuning in here on this Wednesday, May the 17th, 2023. Real quick, want to say thank you to my guy, Luke RJ. He says this new format is fire. Just let Chris cook without the comments and interruptions. Dude is a legend. You know, Luke RJ, I will tell you, I'm a huge fan of it as well. I mean, I honestly, I know, again, we're into day 3. I love the new format. I really do. I just, you know, we've never had any sort of structure, any sort of organization with the Daily Crow. It's just really, truly been kind of like a free-for-all, which is cool, but adding structure, and it's not even like I'm doing more work necessarily. It's just adding a little bit of structure and sort of taking the reins, if you will, and not letting this thing run wild. And I think it's just been a huge success thus far. I think it adds far more value to you guys because, I mean, listen, I get it. There's some of you that tune in that want to hear nothing, but I tune in for the calls, for the comments, and for the craziness. There's some of you that tune in. You tune in for the guests. I want to hear what others have to say. Some of you tune in because you want to hear what I have to say. And now we're able to hit all of those effectively and efficiently. So I appreciate those kind words, Luke RJ. Yeah, no, Brendan, listen, I'm reading the comments because we are waiting on my good friend JD PicKell. He'll join us in 3 minutes. There's nobody who likes to give me more hell, I feel like, than Brendan M. There might be some others, but Brendan M is up there at the top of the list, no doubt. Yeah. So, anyways, I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Truly, truly appreciate it, man. This is absolutely awesome. But like I said, I love the new format personally. I love the new format. And like I said, guys, in the third hour, or really after this conversation with JD PicKell, we'll jump right into your questions, your comments, your calls. I mean, everything. I know you guys have a lot to react to. I mentioned this, guys, on social media, but I'll say it again as well. South Carolina has lost 8 of their last 9 ball games. Tennessee is 2-11 on the road. Something's got to give, guys. Something's got to give. Something has got to give. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And, of course, that'll be one of our talking points as we go into the weekend, we go into the series. This team doesn't have a whole lot of time to figure it out. Because in just over 24 hours, the Tennessee Volunteers will come calling. And if we're not ready, it'll be another long, long weekend at Founders Park. You know, guys, I was asked about will I be going to the games this weekend? And I'm not saying yes, and I'm not saying no. But I got a feeling, right? I got a feeling the slapdickery will be at an all-time high this weekend. And all I know is this. If fans are at Founders Park talking shit to the parents of players, you think they ain't going to talk shit to me? And do you think I want to put up with that slapdickery? I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Peak slapdickery. Peak slapdickery. I just saw that and read that and thought to myself, I don't know. I don't know that I'll be venturing to the friendly confines, the not so friendly confines at this point because of what's been going down. I love Gamecock Nation. I love you all, but you all know, and we all know, you'll be able to cut the tension with a knife this weekend at Founders Park just due to what's happened here of late. But guys, we're going to get off of baseball because we're not having a lot of fun talking about that right now. We're going to bring in my dude. Very excited for this. He's going to join us each and every single Wednesday, and I'm so thankful and grateful for him taking the time to do it. We've had him on the show before, friend of the show. And again, I'm so excited now for this weekly segment. My good friend, JD PicKell Up on 3 Sports, he joins the show. JD, what is up, my friend? Again, first things first, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so pumped to have you on, man. And again, I can't say thank you enough. What's up?
No doubt, man. Hey, living good, brother. How we doing on your end?
We're doing well. The only reason I hesitate is because things on the baseball side of things could be better. They could be better. Lost 8 of your last 9, kind of crumbling down the stretch. Could be better, but no, man, all in all, we're doing well. Hey, host of the Hard Count, by the way, you guys go live every day on YouTube. First thing, there may be some folks who are not familiar with you, your show, your content. Let everyone know just off the jump, off the rip, where they can find all your work.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I mean, we're over there on the On3 YouTube channel every day. We got some content coming for you. You can follow me on the socials at JD PicKell on Twitter and on the gram. But no, man, I appreciate you plugging us on here, and I'm excited to talk some ball, brother. I know you said baseball isn't going exactly how we hoped. Right around 100 or so days till we kick off football season, so just hang tight. Should be a good one.
For sure. And, of course, people, if they're not, will become very familiar with your work, at least in Gamecock Nation and SEC circles, because we're going to make sure we pump all the content out there, right? You and I talked about it off air, doing some legendary things with the content. With that being said, JD, let's get right into it. On the college football front, expansion, realignment, these are things that are inevitable. The big news dropping yesterday, the Magnificent Seven, which I don't know why they call them that. It sounds more like like a superhero group of some kind or a boy band. I don't know. Either way, the Magnificent Seven from the ACC: Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, Virginia Tech. These schools have met in the past several months with lawyers examining grant of rights to determine just how unbreakable it is. Translation: these schools want to leave the ACC. Your overall thoughts on that? Of course, I know you talk a lot of SEC, you talk college football nationally, but you got to think a couple of these, Clemson, Florida State would probably be the top 2. I think they're going to want to join the Southeastern Conference. And just your overall thoughts on that and the way that college football just continues to change on what feels like a daily basis.
Yeah, man. I think the whole deal with the ACC, the Magnificent Seven, the first thought that I had when I heard about this story and then, re-examining the grain of rights and, okay, how unbreakable is it? Is just that this was inevitable, right? We've been talking about the super conference era for forever. It seems like ever since Texas and Oklahoma were that first domino to really fall, at least in recent memory. And then USC and UCLA followed suit. And so with Florida State and those schools in the ACC saying, hey, we bring in a lot of money. We're not getting as much as our counterparts in the Big Ten and the SEC who we want to compete with for national titles. Something ain't right here. Something ain't adding up. Something's got to change. And so not only is it Florida State and Clemson, but like you mentioned, there's 5 other schools now, half the conference that's saying, how do we get out of this? So what it feels like right now is we're at this point where everybody wants to throw out how hard it's going to be to get done. Hey, it's a tall task. I don't know how you can get out of this deal. There's a lot of verbiage here that lawyers have put together. And there was somebody in our YouTube comments that said, lawyers have a funny way of undoing what lawyers put together. And that's kind of what it feels like we're at right now. But I mean, Chris, think about it this way. I mean, everybody was saying Texas and OU can't get it done a year early. It's not going to happen. And then a week later, it ends up they're going to go to the SEC a year early. So I think there's a lot of people with a lot of money and a lot of power in one room that have motivation to get out of the ACC. So when it happens, I'm not sure, but I wholeheartedly believe this is going to happen before 2036.
Are you a fan of the changes to college football, the expansion, the realignment, the expanded playoff? Where do you stand on all that?
Yeah, it feels like a necessary evil a little bit. I think I'm not sure where you fall on this, Chris, but for me, like just the memories of college football, having USC play Oregon every year, in my childhood, or I guess every other year, it felt like, those rivalries, once we start tinkering with that, I start feeling a little bit gross when we start talking about the realignment. But at the same time, I think it is, like I said, a necessary evil, and it's going to make for a lot of fun matchups. Like, I'm going to be the first one signing up to watch USC play Ohio State or watch UCLA play Michigan. Like, that's going to be freaking good football, man. When College Game Day shows up in Columbus for USC coming to town for a Big Ten kind of game, like, that's going to be a lot of fun. So I look to the future and get excited about the matchups, but then also look to the past and I'm like, man, had some good times. We had some good times with what college football was, but it feels like those days are slowly but surely passing us by.
Yeah, JD, I know people hate change. So it's and when you're changing, such a great thing. I mean, college football, it's not like this thing where it's broken, needs to be fixed. It's been great forever. I mean, I think there's two ways, obviously, to look at it. And I think that's always the case when there is change. You can look at the positive or the negative, right? What are you leaving behind? What are you gaining? I mean, I agree with you, rivalries over realignment, right? And like, you don't want to lose out on some great matchups. But, you know, I just think about the SEC in general. We can take it here also, by the way, if we want to take it to the SEC. I mean, I think a 9-game conference schedule is coming. I think the 3 permanent opponents is coming. And I know that's going to be a tough adjustment for people. But at the same time, like the fact that you don't have to wait a decade to play a certain team. Like, I think that's going to be really cool, having these cycling opponents and being able to get these great matchups. I think what was the stat? It was something like Georgia, like Texas A&M's been in the league since 2012, and they still haven't been to College Station. Like how does that happen? You know what I mean? Like, that won't be a thing anymore. So, you know, I'll take it to there, JD. Your thoughts on the expanded conference schedule in the SEC, the 3 permanent opponents, which it sounds like is what the reality is going to be moving forward with the conference.
Yeah, I think overall that's a good thing. Like you said, there's rivalries over realignment. That's a great phrase. I would definitely trademark that if I were you. That's phenomenal. um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the benefits. Like there's for all the negatives that have to do with realignment, all the things that we're not excited about with hanging on to what college football has been and what's made it so great. There is still some things that's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like how has Georgia gone X number of years not playing Y team? Like they should probably, if they're in the same conference, play on a semi-regular basis. That just feels like good common sense. So it's kind of this back and forth in your mind. You got the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other, and it's like realignment's bad. Well, realignment's good. Well, realignment could be this. Well, realignment actually could be pretty positive in this way. So I think the thing that sits with me the worst with all the realignment talk is the people making these decisions, the people that are, putting together these new conferences are people with MBA degrees and people that went to law school and people that wear a suit and tie to work and have 3 different Teslas in the garage. It's not people like you and me, Chris, that are like, man, I wake up just living and breathing this game. I can't wait for Saturday. I can't wait for college game to be back on the TV. Like all those things that people that really make up the sport, those are the people that I would trust a little bit more with the sport. But at the same time, the people that are in charge are in charge, and we roll with it. So that's what sits the most uncomfortable with me around realignment.
Now, JD, shifting gears, you had Wes Mitchell of Gamecock Central on your show, and you guys, I thought the clip that really moved the needle, right? One of the hot topics of conversation on that show, Lenoris Sellers, right? I know the On3 guys did a great job of identifying him early on in the process. The Gamecocks land him late in the process, get him to flip from Syracuse. JD, I'm not sure that Lenoris Sellers is going to be a guy that we talk about a ton going into this season, just because, hey, Spencer Rattler's the guy. We all understand that. And I'm someone too, JD, that I went into last year thinking, okay, Spencer's the guy, but Tanner Bailey's going to play. Braden Davis is going to play. They're going to have this mop-up duty, and it never happened. Now, was some of that because of the Satterfield effect? And I don't think we expected games against Charlotte and South Carolina State to be slugfest, but, that was the Satterfield effect. So, anyways, going into this season, and I thought the conversation that you guys had, though, was really, really interesting because obviously you caught my eye when you start comparing anybody to Tim Tebow and the way that Florida used him as a true freshman. I said, let me stop and listen to this and see what's going on here. What did you pick up from that conversation with Wes Mitchell, and just thoughts on Lenoris Sellers, a guy who, I don't know is going to get, obviously made hella impressions after the spring game. I think we all look at him. He could be the quarterback of the future for South Carolina because of his skill set, his size, his intangibles. He's got everything you look for in a big-time quarterback. But what did you pick up on that conversation from Wes Mitchell? What type of impact do you think he could have? Because Spencer Rattler's obviously the guy, but Lenoris Sellers has got a skill set that could potentially help this team this year.
Yeah, man. First of all, Wes Mitchell does phenomenal work. Absolutely brilliant. Really dialed into the operation down there in Columbia. But I think when you look at Lenoris Sellers, the thing that comes to mind with him is he's not somebody physically you need to really wait on. Like sometimes, and you know this, Chris, guys will get on the campus and it's like, yeah, well, now this is college football and we got a meal plan for you. We got a strength program for you. You were the most talented guy at your high school by a good couple of miles. But now we're going to make sure that we kind of beef you up and get you ready to play. Like Lenoris Sellers, I think he's like 6'3", 230. like an absolute grown man walking around. And when you see that kind of a frame to go along with his skill set, it's hard to not have the gears turn a little bit and be like, man, well, 4th and 1, you get an extra blocker, you call quarterback power. We got a hat on a hat. The safety's got to come tackle the quarterback. Lenore sells 230. I mean, you're not going to tackle him just, without getting your face rubbed in the dirt just a little bit. So I think the temptation is to utilize that skill set. Now, I understand that for South Carolina fans, it's going to be this: we want to see him play versus also, hey, save him for the future, man. We'll take all the years of eligibility that we can get. So I think that Wes is on the money, though. I mean, with how big he is and how physically imposing he is, I think there's absolutely an opportunity for him to be used situationally. With Spencer Rattler not being in the game on 4th down, I really think there's a lot to like about that skill set, without a doubt.
I think JD as well, when you factor in South Carolina and the state of the running back position right now. And like you mentioned, you might be in a position where 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, no disrespect to those guys in that room right now, but it might be a better option to get creative. And getting creative might mean getting him in the game. And like you mentioned, using like a Tim Tebow and comparing somebody to Tim Tebow's aggressive, but in that same manner, right? Throwing a defense off. And, we'll see if Dowell Loggins adds that wrinkle to the playbook. JD, when do you normally drop? Like, do you do like full on predictions, like for every SEC team, or predicting the East West champ? Do you do that? When does that come for you if that happens?
Yeah, man. So we'll do some of those on the On3 TikTok page. We'll go kind of just game by game, and it's funny, man, because they get dug up after the season. It's like, man, we're calling our shot in June. Like, I didn't know Joe Burrow was going to be Joe Burrow, So, but no. So we'll break that down. I think closer to the end of this month in June. We'll probably do some more in-depth stuff with South Carolina and breaking down, the schedule. But I mean, that 6.5 win number, I think you and I might have talked about it last time we were on here. That's tempting. I mean, there's tall towers in Vegas for a reason, but South Carolina covered the number 2 years in a row. I mean, I think that's an early best bet if you're looking to make some extra greenbacks in one of those states where you can gamble some money.
Well, that's where I wanted to take the conversation, though, JD, because what I think is just so interesting, South Carolina, they feel like sort of one of those volatile teams coming in the season where you label them as extremely dangerous, but then I look at that, like Caesars has got them at 6. And I'm like, why is this number at 6? It almost feels like one of those, what does Vegas know that we don't type of deals? There's this discrepancy between, you got some people who have the Gamecocks preseason top 20, and then you got the over under 6. So like, how do you explain that? Do you think it's more of a schedule thing? Is there something about this roster? Like, where do you fall? Because I know we all look at that number, and there's, feels like there's like 6 SEC teams that are either at 6 or 6.5. I mean, it's just such a brutally competitive league, but like that number jumps out. And I know, again, you say, and I feel like everybody's saying, hammer the over, hammer the over, hammer the over. And maybe this is I don't know, man, the pessimistic chicken curse Gamecock fan coming out at me, but like, it scares me. It scares me to, like, it's such a no-brainer pick. Like, where does your mind go? Why do you think there is such a, and also, by the way, the computers, they hate South Carolina. Does that really matter? Not necessarily, but like, I feel like South Carolina is just a weird team going into 2023, if that makes sense.
It's one of those teams, and we saw it in the last year, like going into the game against Clemson and the game against Tennessee, they were double-digit dogs, like 2-score underdogs to both those teams. And I mean, we do a prediction show during the week and predict them on Thursday or Tuesday, whatever it was, to lose those games. Say, hey, South Carolina, they're phenomenal. I love Shane Beamer. Don't think they're beating Tennessee. I have to show up that Sunday and just kind of have a sheepish grin, and I'm like, man, I didn't know what Shane Beamer was bringing. And so it's one of those things too, where I think you go back and it's so hard to quantify and it's so hard to really pinpoint, and it kind of feels like a cop-out answer, but I talk about, just the culture at South Carolina. Like, is South Carolina just the superior roster to a Clemson with how well Clemson's recruited over the last couple of years? Like, maybe not, but it sure as heck didn't matter on that Saturday. It didn't matter when Tennessee showed up on that Saturday. So I think, there's a piece of it to where I'm like, there's just sort of this X factor with South Carolina with the culture that Shane Beamer's got there, to where, they don't really seem to care what Vegas is saying. They don't seem to have too much attention paid that way. And if I'm betting with the Gamecocks, that's kind of the ace in the hole for me, is like, well, Vegas thinks this, but hasn't been a factor the last 2 games of the year. So that's kind of where I lean when it comes to South Carolina. And that number is just Beamer and Vegas seem to not totally be synced up just yet.
Now, I know I know June you mentioned is when you guys will really dive into schedules, getting predictions, but you look at South Carolina's schedule. I'll put you on the spot, JD. North Carolina in Charlotte, at Georgia, at Tennessee, the Florida game at home, Clemson at the end of the year. There's some big games on the schedule. Is there one at Missouri? My God, how can I forget? Because you've lost 4 in a row somehow to the Missouri Tigers. Is there a game for you, though, that you look at that jumps out that you say, if the Gamecocks are for real, if they're going to exceed or even match last year's win total, that'll be the game where you sort of know, okay, it's clicking. Like this is a South Carolina's finishing second or third in the SEC East. Which game is that for you on the schedule?
I think Florida and Missouri are the two that you look at pretty closely because Florida's one of those teams that's right around the 5.5 win total, kind of supposed to be a down year. We don't know who's playing quarterback. And then Missouri, kind of the same thing. Is it going to be Jake Garcia? Is it Brady Cook? Offense scored 24 points a game last year. Those teams, to me, now with where South Carolina is as an operation under Shane Beamer, it feels like those are the games that they are supposed to win, supposed to take care of business. If you want to be an 8-win team, and if you want to, be a team that consistently wins 8 games in the SEC. So those are the two that I look at as the swing games, because Georgia's Georgia, Tennessee is a question mark. North Carolina, I think we learn a lot about, but it's still only week 1. So who are you week 1? You might be different week 10. But Florida and Missouri, I think, are games where if you want to set the floor at a certain spot year in and year out, those are games that we need to win this season.
Now, JD, there's a lot of emphasis going into this season on year 3 for Shane Beamer, and year 3 is kind of the year we find out, I don't know if are you the guy or not the guy. That might be a little bit aggressive, but like you mentioned, the trajectory of your program. Do you believe in that as a hard, okay, if Shane Beamer is going to take Carolina to the next level, it's got to start to happen in year 3. They've got to win 8 games or more. Do you buy into that? I mean, is that something that you think's kind of just one of those stats that doesn't really always hold true? Where do you fall on that, the importance of year 3 for a head coach?
I think the eye test for South Carolina this year, because I do buy into the year 3. I think all year 3s are not created equal. And I think that's probably the case for South Carolina. You compare Steve Sarkisian's year 3 at Texas and where South Carolina is right now, I think you judge those seasons differently. But going back to what I was saying about South Carolina, I think if you were to lose to a Georgia, no one would be upset with South Carolina. But I think how you look in that game is important and how you stack up. Because South Carolina had a lot of games last year where it felt like, the Tennessee and Clemson game are great examples. They just brought it that day, and it was a kind of a South Carolina team that looked very different than the game we saw against Florida. And so kind of just seeing a consistency in terms of the product you're putting out there week to week is really what I'm looking for. If you win 8 games, awesome. That probably helps recruiting. That probably bolsters, the future of the program. But I don't know that if they were to win 6 games, or let's just get crazy, the sky falls in, something horrible happens, and they just get off the rails, they miss a bowl game. I'm still not selling any of that Shane Beamer stock, because I think that the play with him is in the long term and what he's building culture-wise, recruiting-wise, all those things. I think those are things that are going to pay dividends for the long term. So that's where I fall on that. But I'm excited for year 3, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
JD, let's switch up the conversation a little bit. The big news, maybe the biggest news of the day, FBS football players will be able to be in EA Sports' new college football game. This coming from Michael Rothstein. Were you a big NCAA football video game guy, and how excited are you for the new game, which is supposed to drop next summer?
Oh, man. I think it was my 14th, 15th birthday. I asked for a PlayStation. I asked for NCAA. And when people ask me today still, do you play video games? Man, not really, but I play NCAA a lot. And that now has kind of gotten the question of what game is that? Which is just, Chris Fresh just is a heartbreaker. So I expect an influx of PTO across the country for summer 2024 for people to be buying the game. But no, man, so fired up for that. Good for the NCAA, good for NIL, good for all the lawyers involved to get that done. Because you and I both know it's been something that the masses have been calling for now for a long time. But I cannot wait to be a quarterback for Old Dominion, run for 700 yards a game, finish second in the Heisman Trophy, and win a national title my first year.
Well, JD, I was going to say, if you ever need your fix, my friend, over the summer we do the season simulation series. I've got the old PlayStation back here, got college football revamped, and we'll stream it on YouTube, man. We'll simulate the season, the South Carolina season, that is. So, yeah. You ever want to get your – hey, and I'll tell you this. It is some of – and it's very – I mean, you live in the social media world. You identify it very easily, but you can find out really quickly, you know, who takes life a little too serious. I was going to say who's miserable. Maybe that's aggressive. But who takes life a little bit too seriously, who doesn't, because I'll have people that – you know, complain about the simulations and the way they go. And I'm like, dude, it's a video game. Like, this is meant to be. It is July. We are hungry for football. We have nothing. SEC Media Days happens, and then we have nothing. This is meant to curb the appetite until we get there. But I will say this to you, JD. Scores obviously aren't accurate, statistics, whatever. You'd be stunned, though, how often the game, how close it gets the record. You'd be stunned. Absolutely.
Really?
I'll tell you this. The simulation last year had South Carolina beating Clemson.
Really? Okay.
I'm just saying. Sometimes the simulation speaks. Sometimes it's really absurd, though, which is a lot of the time. I think the final score in the Charlotte game was like 27-24. So, which, granted, it was close at halftime. But anyways, it's a lot of fun. You ought to tune in if you ever get bored of the
Have to, man.
Yeah, it's a blast. No, it's a blast, man. JD PicKell of On3 Sports. JD, I'm looking forward, man. Again, I appreciate you doing this every single Wednesday. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and we're going to have a lot of fun, man, over the course of the offseason, too. People think, oh, it's dead. Dude, it never ceases to amaze me, JD, in just the Gamecock sphere, is something new every day, man. There's always news happening. There's always something. Some coach said something, or somebody did something, or I mean, certainly when it goes to the SEC and national, man, college football never stops. So excited to talk about all of it with you, my friend, and again, appreciate you being part of this.
Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, JD, we'll talk soon. Take care, brother. Good stuff from JD PicKell on 3 Sports, guys. Like I mentioned, he'll join us every single Wednesday to talk Gamecocks football, SEC, college football, and as you just saw, really anything and everything in between. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, though, we're going to open it up, man. The Q&A Power Hour will begin. I want to hear from all of you. Your questions, your comments, your calls, venting. Go ahead and get it out there. This is your time to do so. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Wednesday, May the 17th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We are now taking your questions, your comments, your calls here in our Power Hour. And, folks, we got 2 voicemails. We are going to start this thing off in style. Again, guys, if you can't call in the 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock hour, or just when we do take questions, comments, and calls, you can call in, leave a voicemail, and I will play that on the show. With that being said, without further ado, we got 2 voicemails. Let's go ahead and get into our first one.
This is Rebecca, the queen of the Spurs Up Show. I would like to wish Robbie Davis a happy 32nd birthday. Oh, happy birthday, Robbie Davis.
Very well said from Rebecca. Happy birthday, by the way, to Robbie Davis. That was Rebecca on the voicemail. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for that. And again, happy birthday to Robbie Davis. I'm sure we'll hear from Robbie at some point today. Let's get into our other voicemail, guys. We're just getting started here. Let's get into this voicemail.
Hey, Big Dale. What happened to the lady that answered the phone, Chris? Man, I call and talk to her. You know, I'm single and all. I was just trying to talk to a lady friend. Can't believe he got you on as the voicemail line now, man. Come on. Hey, man. Y'all about to play them balls this weekend. I think them balls gonna sweep y'all, man. Smokey's gonna drag his balls across them left cocks. Mm-hmm. No life in them. No joy. No joy in them cocks. Smokey's gonna be over there just scooting his butt across them, you know, scooting his butt across home plate. It ain't gonna be fun for you guys, I can tell you that. And I saw it was Sleepy Rob's birthday. How old is he? About 15 years old? Probably uses 15 corn dogs as candles on his cake, man. Don't poke your eye out now with them corn dogs. You know, you don't want that in your eye. Almost like pink eye.
Oh, God, it cut off. Hold on. That wasn't it. Let me see. Okay.
Happy birthday, Sleepy Rob. Don't call in, please. All right, Chris. Well, I ain't got too many minutes, so I guess since you ain't answering the phone no more, you all got your Chris AI answering the phone for you. Guess I gotta get off here. Let me know when you gonna send me back them $2. Beat it out.
Oh, God. Rebecca and Dale back to back on the voicemail line is something we didn't know that we all needed. We do have one text here, guys, as the phone lines are now open. Panic Ritter here. We're starting with Rebecca, Dale, and Panic Ritter. Panic Ritter here, he says, first of all, fire the running backs coach. The board should have waited to give that extension to Tanner because that's going to be 3 coaches Tanner failed on and 2 in baseball. Second, Kingston needs to stop saying that we fought hard and we busted our ass. Whoop-de-doo, you still lost, Chris. Hope you get those Fire Kingston shirts ready. We know Tanner will be like 0 Kingston injuries. By the way, Justin Parker, you stink. Very well said. All right, let's jump to the phone lines.
Call from
Dalton.
Dalton, what's up, man? How are you?
How's it going, man? I'm just chilling, hanging out on this Wednesday, watching former Gamecock alum Francisco Cerundolo in the ATP 1000 Rome tournament. So
very nice. Okay. Sounds like you're having a hell of a Wednesday, my friend. I appreciate you calling in.
So I just wanted to call in on this Venting Wednesday because obviously nobody was happy about what transpired last night in the baseball game, losing to Charlotte the third time. We've lost to Charlotte in a row. So I'm just wondering, in your opinion, do you see a way back for this team? Do you think we can? Because at this point, it just feels like we're searching for answers. The frustration is building, and there's just not a whole lot of good vibes. So I'm just wondering how we get to back where we were. Because while we do have injuries, you can't really blame it all on injuries. We have good players healthy on the roster, right? I mean, we should be able to beat Charlotte no matter who we have out there. Is kind of my feeling. So. I don't know, man. I'm just, obviously if this season ends and us going to, a regional in Clemson, like a lot of people are prognosticating, then even that I feel like would warrant a firing of Mark Kingston just because it would be one of the biggest choke jobs ever, in this program's history. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
You ask me, Dalton, is there a way out for this team? Is there a way back? And
Yeah.
I'm somebody that I call it as I see it, right? I keep it a buck. I mean, the fan, the optimist inside of me wants to say yes. Because what a bleak reality if we all sit here and say, this team is dead, the season's over, and we're dying a slow and painful death. You know what I mean? So, I want to believe that there's gonna be a resurgence. I want to believe that this team is going to find their way out of this turmoil they have put themselves in. Will they? I don't know. And I just keep coming back, Dalton, to like you mentioned, this is the same group of guys for the most part that swept Florida and was ranked in the top 5 in the country. This is that same team for the most part. But we got to see it. All you can go off of is what you've seen on the field. And what we're seeing is abysmal. And I mean, like you said, and I'll tell you this, you talk about the importance of this weekend and certainly, this week, last night was a horrific start. But for example, Baseball America just dropped their projected field of 64. South Carolina is right now today, being projected as a 13 seed. If you lose 2 of 3 or you get swept, God forbid, this weekend, you got a very good point, man. There's a good chance South Carolina could play themselves out of a hosting spot and go on the road. So I think this weekend, I think it's a really slippery slope, Dalton, when you start questioning effort or want to, or I think these guys want to win. I think it's an over-exaggeration to say, well, our guys just aren't trying. They don't care. They don't want to win. Nobody likes losing more than winning. But there are slumps, and then there's what we're going through right now. This is, dare I say, have we hit rock bottom? I don't know. We're scraping it, though. We're pretty damn close. So I want to believe there's some light at the end of this tunnel. But if there's going to be, Dalton, I think we all agree it has to start this weekend. I mean, I would have said it had to start last night, and it didn't. So I don't know, man. I'm as torn up as you are. I'm as frustrated. I think my overwhelming emotion, Dalton, I'm just confused. I don't really understand how we got here. I really don't understand how we've gotten to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, man. It's just frustrating watching this team that we all thought was an Omaha caliber team just continually lose, and then Mark Kingston come to each press conference and say the same thing over and over again. I mean, yeah, I understand we're in a position different than what we were last year, where by this point last season, we weren't even going to be in the postseason, right? We still have a shot at potentially hosting and potentially going to Omaha, but the turnaround has to start immediately. I mean, baseball's a weird sport. What you are at the beginning of the season isn't exactly what you're going to be at the end of the season. And I mean, we have the talent to still get to Omaha, but we just have to see results. And I think, once you start winning, then it will get this team back into gear, hopefully, and help them, reach the ultimate goal of making it to Omaha, making it to a super and all that. And if they don't do it, I mean, you can definitely say it's on the coach at this point, because, there hasn't been anything that's really changed with the roster, a whole lot. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with the baseball team.
This team, to your point, Dalton, this team desperately needs something good to happen. Like, there's nothing that will fix any of the feelings or the emotions right now. There's nothing that'll fix that except winning. That's it. Winning cures all. Winning cures all. So, it starts Thursday night. I mean, flat out, you so desperately need a win Thursday night. I mean, it's weird to label a game, unless it's an elimination game in baseball, a must win. And I'm hesitant to do that about tomorrow night, because again, there's baseball to be played. This team's going to the postseason. Like, Ole Miss did what they did last year, but like, man, I mean, tomorrow night just feels like a must have, dude. It really does. Like, you got to start playing good baseball again at some point. You got a Tennessee team that's 2-11 on the road. I know they've been good of late, but their road record is what it is. It really just feel like a game you so desperately need to have. Need something good to start going your way.
And then as far as the football team goes, I know that, we've had some struggles recruiting in the running back room. Obviously, that's the main storyline. My question to you is, if you look at the recruiting record for Montario Hardesty, it hasn't exactly been stellar, and in the past we have recruited at that running back position well. I mean, there are tons of great Gamecocks throughout history that have played here, as a star running back. So I'm just wondering if, we need to look for a new running backs coach, because Montario Hardesty can't get it done. I mean, he struck out on every single recruit he's targeted in the transfer portal, and it doesn't seem like his high school recruiting is that stellar either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's landed a couple, but at the end of the day, there's not really, a wealth of prospects that we've gotten in the Beamer, tenure so far at that position. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's it's an interesting position. I mean, am I going to sit here and start up the fire Montario Hardesty chants today here on May 17th? Not necessarily, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of angst and a lot of frustration behind closed doors. And I mean, listen, you heard J.C. Sherbert talk about it literally yesterday, right? You heard him talk about it yesterday in the success or lack thereof that South Carolina is having at the running back position. And I mean, you can look at last year and you blame Marcus Satterfield for the offensive struggles and, what have you. Okay, cool. But, yeah, this is a position that you just don't feel like you're getting the most out of the talent you have on campus. And I mean, it's a weird position, I guess, Dalton, to be in a calling for the running back coach's head. That's not normally the guy you go after, but I'll just tell you this. I am surprised that Montario Hardesty was retained after the 2022 season. I was surprised at that. I would have been fine with him being dismissed or going a different direction or what have you. So, I mean, you feel like everybody on this staff Beamer believes in, and maybe he just loves the continuity. I mean, I don't know exactly what his strategy is, but there's been misses, no doubt, and it's starting to that frustration is starting to mount, right? When you think about the misses in the portal, when you think about the misses in recruiting and, Marshawn Lloyd departing, and it's all starting to snowball, right, and add up. And I think it's becoming obvious that sooner rather than later, South Carolina is going to probably need to go a different direction when it comes to their running backs coach.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not over as far as, adding more depth to the running back room and getting a number one option at running back. Certainly, to your point, I'm not saying that, that number one option isn't already on the roster. I mean, there have been tons of D2 players that have come into the SEC and been really, really solid, really, really good players. So, I mean, Mario Anderson could be an option. We already know what Juju can do. I don't really think he's a between the tackles type of back, but he can do some really nice things when he gets the ball in his hand. But I mean, it's not over as far as adding a running back to this roster. However, I wouldn't say that the running back is the strength of our football team right now. That's for sure. So you just got to hope that this coaching staff can, adapt to that situation and get the most out of the players that are on the roster and that they'll add to the roster in the future.
I mean, to your point, Dalton, maybe they have a plan. Maybe they like the guys, on the roster more than we realize. But it's an interesting position to be in going into the season. That's for sure. When you think about that, your leading returning ball carrier is Juju McDowell, who I think had less than 300 yards rushing last year. So we'll see. I mean, it's certainly going to be one of the big question marks going in the season. But maybe there's help on the way with the Dontavius Braswell. Maybe like you mentioned, Mario Anderson can adjust, continue to get better and adjust to the speed of the game, and maybe he can be that guy. So we only time will tell, I guess, my friend. Only time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, overall though, I like where we're at, and I trust Shane Beamer to get this team where it needs to be in order to be competitive in the SEC. So, I'm looking forward to the season. I already have my season tickets, and also I hope that the baseball season can end in a positive way rather than an epic collapse and failure the way it's going right now. But this weekend will be huge, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Well said, Dalton. Hey, I always appreciate you calling in, my friend. Thank you so much.
No problem. You have a good one.
You too. Take care. Appreciate it. Great stuff from our friend Dalton. Really, really good stuff. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of frustration behind closed doors with the running back position and the success or lack thereof, landing big-time guys. I mean, Braswell, obviously you got him, but, there's just been some misses that's taking the toll. Guys, we've hit 2 o'clock. Let's go back to your questions here. A lot of questions here in the chat box. Brendan M. said early on in the show, all there is pain. I'm going to highlight these. All there is pain. Stephanie Lee, need therapy, Chris. I hear you. This is what we're here for. Jacob E. says, absolutely destroyed the panic button last night. Brewer Nation says, Gamecock Nation, find some joy. Travis says, while I was encouraged last weekend at Arkansas, last night was brutal. You mean to tell me our bullpen couldn't lock down that squad? Sad. Brewer Nation said, I was just listening to possible future head coach Landon Powell. I hear you. Ethan says, pitching is a mess right now. The arms are just not there. Jacob E. USC traveling to a Clemson regional was a funny joke, and now it's a nightmare possibility. Will Hall says the MO for the Yardcocks, it seems lately, is one good offensive inning early and flat to the end. Yesterday, 4-0 Cox, bases loaded and 1 out. You got to pounce and not look back. That's a good point. Marion R26 says, happy birthday to the Hall of Famer Robbie Davis, the big 32 today. Marion R, I hope y'all are taking care of Robbie Davis today. That's awesome. Happy birthday to Robbie Davis. Brewer Nation says, Panic Ritter, were you the one trying to fight parents at the game last night? John Edwards says, you can be frustrated at the ballpark, just don't be a slapdick. Well said, John Edwards. Well said. Bruin Nation on Monterio Hardesty. Who is he recruited besides Braswell? No excuse to why we shouldn't have an underclassman already on the roster. He also says, I'm high on Braswell, but we should have 2 to 3 young guys in that room. Interesting. James Kendall says, anybody who was on our roster let's see. Anyone who was on our roster at the end of last year was not considered a SEC running back. Let's see. Wow. Marion R26, who was at the game last night, says Gamecock fans talking shit to each other had the cops breaking them up. Brandon says Gamecock baseball a few weeks ago was 34-6, number 3 in the country. Now we've lost 9 of 12 in 7 of our last 9 SEC games. Bruin Nation says Sellers will pick up 2 to 3 yards on every carry on a sneak or draw. Love that. Lynn Turner, we have really, really bad luck pushing freshman quarterbacks, especially running quarterbacks into playing. I hope we can save Sellers' red shirt. Ethan says, just put Kai Kroger at running back. The man does it all. Why not? He can do it all. He can do it all. Guys, that being said, let's jump to the phone lines real quick.
Call from
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
to accept, press.
Robbie Davis, happy birthday, my friend. Thank you for calling in. What's going on?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca, for the birthday wishes. Seriously, thank you. Yeah, the cops got called, and I'm surprised he didn't get thrown out of the stadium because he was not being very nice.
Wow. So it was a tense night at Founders, huh?
Yeah. And fun fact, the throw out at second that Messina had and the home run that Messina had, I called both of those.
Very nice. I wish you'd have called more home runs.
Right
You could have used them.
Right before he hit the home run, I said, "Don't put it in the sweet spot." And then lo and behold, he put it in the sweet spot.
Love that.
And then right before that guy tried to steal second, I said, "Don't steal. Messina's got a tendency to throw people out." And then lo and behold, he threw a guy out. Like not even 10 seconds later, he threw a guy out. Then I was like, "I told you so. I told you not to run. You didn't listen." But
you knew best, Robbie. You knew
yeah.
best. Yep, you knew best.
But as some of my friends always say, regardless of the outcome of something, as long as you have fun, that's all that matters. And I had fun.
I love to hear it. I mean, it's just funny, though, Robbie, hearing you say that and Gamecock fans fighting with each other and Gamecock fans imploding. And people wonder why I maybe hesitate to go to a game and mingle amongst the slapdickery. People actually wonder.
Oh, no, I know why.
Right.
I know why. I'm not going to get into it, but I know why.
Anyways, Robbie, happy birthday, my friend. How are you spending your birthday today?
Well, I found out from my mother that we are going to Logan's for dinner. So I'm going to Logan's for dinner.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. But I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'm just chilling on the birthday.
Love that.
I had fun last night. Been getting phone calls like crazy.
You're a celebrity, man.
Man,
Do you have
I know.
Do you have a go-to order at Logan's or no?
I ain't been there enough to have a go-to order.
Okay, fair enough.
But I don't even. It's been so long since I've been there. I don't even remember what I got the first time I went there. I don't even remember. but I'll probably remember whenever I go up in there. And by the way, okay, Mr. BDD, okay, or MDD, okay. Try and figure that one out, okay. You're not going to dim my shine today, my friend. Ain't going to happen. It's my birthday. So I'm going to have me one hell of a day today, and you're not going to dim it, okay? Ain't going to happen. Not going to happen. And in case you're wondering, I don't have a cake. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But you know what? I got friends that care about me, so I'll take that over a birthday cake any day.
We love you, Robbie. We're I hope you have a great birthday. I'll say that. I hope you have a fantastic birthday.
I'm having a blast so far.
Yeah.
So, my prediction for the weekend, okay, as much as I hate to do it, I got us losing 2 out of 3.
I mean, that's fair. I don't know what I'm going to pick yet. I really don't know what I'm going to pick yet. So
6-3 tonight. I got us losing 6-3 tonight. Winning tomorrow night and then losing Saturday.
okay.
And the Saturday game's on the big network, by the way.
Oh, I forgot about that.
In case anybody's wondering, the Saturday game's on the big network.
Okay.
So
good stuff. Well, Robbie, I appreciate you, man. I hope you guys have a fantastic time at Logan's. Hope you have a great birthday, and always appreciate you calling him. And don't let Big Dick Dale discourage you from calling him.
Listen, I'm telling you, man, I ain't gonna let him dim my shine. No birthday or no birthday, I ain't letting nobody dim my shine, especially today. It ain't happening today. I'm having me one hell of a day today.
I love it.
So
I love it.
All right, buddy. You have a good one. Go Cox, and to hell with Clemson. They're losers. Losers. Level 7 weenies, okay? Losers.
Well said, Robbie. I appreciate you, man. Take care.
You too, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah, man. You too. Great stuff from Robbie Davis, as always. And happy birthday to the legend that is Robbie Davis. I think we might have a Skyland call incoming, by the way. Skyland call incoming. He tried to call during Robbie's call. Everybody's favorite. Everybody's favorite during the baseball season. Here he is. Skyland, what's going on, man? How are you?
You still live?
I am still live. Yeah, so you've been out of the loop, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so starting Monday, we expanded the show noon to 3.
Oh,
yeah.
You're not even live on Facebook right now.
Well, that's because you must have missed that as well. So the show is now streaming live exclusively on YouTube. Yeah, so we're now. Yeah, you've missed a lot, my friend. So I'll catch you up. So the show is expanded noon to 3. There's a new format to the show though, where I'm going to be using the first hour to hit on topics, talk about whatever, right? Second hour, we have our guest, and then our third hour is our power hour. So 2 to 3, our power hour, to where we'll take all the questions, comments, calls, stuff like that. So show expanded, airing exclusively on YouTube, and also the way that we produce content on the podcast side of things. If you go check it out, it looks much different, kind of breaking out the show into smaller segments that are much easier to consume, and I think just much more user-friendly. So anyways, that's why we're still live. So I guess you were just calling a chat, but you're live, my friend. So I know that everybody is very curious and intrigued to hear your thoughts, because you know what? Some people might give you hell. Some people might give you hell, but you're as diehard a Carolina baseball fan as they come I'll let you have the floor, my friend.
Well, I think I knew the downfall was coming because of the way we was winning. Usually don't win baseball games that way. The recipe was we got walks and homers, and you know teams that walk 2 or 3, and we might run into a single or double there here and there. But I just felt like the truth is with this baseball team is that they won a lot of early games. It's because we got walked a lot and we hit a lot of homers. Now, since the homers has died and the walks has died down, we struggled to win, and we have definitely struggled to stay hot. Now, to back me up, some people want to argue with me. We're number 3 in the nation with walks. We're top 20 hit by pitches. We're top 5 homers, but hits, we're 167 in the nation in getting hits. And that's just a problem to me. I'm not coming out here to say fire Mark Kingston, but I'm not a Mark Kingston fan. But I also feel like you can't live and die by the homer. And in the last 6 years, that's exactly what you've done: live and die by a homer. And I just like to see us be the gap. Let's run the bases team, and just get rid of the launch angles, because I just feel like Kingston don't coach baseball. He coached analytics, and we foul a lot of balls off. It's either we hit balls hard, deep, and or homers. And it's very rare to see South Carolina to move the bases in the last 6 years. What are your thoughts?
And I'll tell you this. Skyland. I will say this. You bring up something really interesting, because I got the numbers pulled up right here, and we talked about just what we needed to see, going into this season. And I could argue with you, Skyland, or I could just argue in general is what I mean. I could argue this season has about played out exactly as we expected. Here's what I mean by that. You look at the numbers right now. Overall, South Carolina is hitting 278 as a team. That is 11th in the SEC. South Carolina has a 3.93 overall ERA. And these numbers are before last night, by the way. I want to make that very clear. But either way, point still stands. A 3.93 ERA. That is second in the SEC. What did we say in the preseason, Skyland? That the pitching was going to carry this team to a postseason appearance and maybe a super whatever. But the home runs, to your point, just going off these stats, to your point, this team has kind of been what we expected. And I think maybe the home runs made us lose sight of that, because you do have 104 bombs, which is good enough for, at this point, 3rd in the SEC. Tennessee's got 109. It's crazy as poor a season they've had. They've still got 109 homers, and they lead the conference. 109 homers. I didn't know that. 106 homers for Florida and 102 for LSU. You're right at 104. So you're 3rd in the SEC. So it's like the home run numbers have kind of overshadowed the fact that you're swinging it about how you've always swung it under Mark Kingston. You really are.
And just a heads up, we're still 2nd in the SEC. Just our ERA is a 4.07.
Okay. So the point being, though, Skyland, is just that, what we thought about this team, I think, in preseason has played out. It's a team that to your point, the home run has carried you. And, outside of that, though, offensively, I don't think anybody would look at the Gamecocks and say this is some offensive juggernaut team. But the pitching has been very good, as we expected. So it's a Kingston team. It is a Kingston team yet again. I mean, to your point, it is a Kingston team yet again. And listen, I agree with you. I agree with you that, and I'm also not sitting here today saying fire Mark Kingston. I won't blame anybody for not being a fan of Mark Kingston, though. I won't. You know what I mean? If you want to take that stance, there's plenty of reason to justify why, not being a Mark Kingston fan is a justifiable feeling. There's plenty.
Okay, okay, I want to give you the right stats here. We have 326 based on balls. We have 98 hit by pitches. That equals 424 walks. We only have 477 base hits. So it's about 50-50. We have left. Not left, my bad. We have about 1,000, let's just say 1,000 base runners with walks, and, teams have made errors. We've only, scored 127 runs. So we're scoring, what would you say? 60, high 50% of our base runners, which is good, but we're not, we're just not getting them in the way we need to get them in.
Yeah, I mean, and again, to your point, I'm not trying to poke holes in like what we did offensively early in the season, because those guys, I don't think it's luck to be like patient at the plate, but to your point, drawing a bunch of walks and hit by pitches, and if that's not happening, can the offense still be productive?
No.
And I think the way that we're being pitched is different now, and we have not adjusted to it, and we're not capitalizing like we once were. So, yeah.
I do think this team's cooked. I do think we lose this weekend. I do think the postseason falls short. I'm not very hopeful for Mark Kingston's teams. Nothing against these players, but it's just been the last 6 years, same story, different movie. That's all it is. It's kind of like watching the same movie over and over, but with a different cast. So, I know that early in the year it fooled a lot of people, but we were just getting walked a lot. And that's what happened last night. We scored 6 runs off of homers. In the first inning, 4-0 came off of walks that scored.
Skyland, I think you phrase it. That's one hell of a way to phrase it, man. That it's like watching the same movie, just with a different cast.
Do you agree with that?
I mean, I hadn't thought of it that way, but you do make one hell of a point, my friend. You do make one hell of a point.
Anyway, I texted you last week and told you McGillis, what was his problem. I'm not going to say, but he did get a spot, and I don't think he's going to play this weekend. I think you saw last night just as much as I did.
Yeah.
Sanders, I know Sanders is out with a foot injury. Tiplett's coming around, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like Tippett a lot. I like Tippett's game.
Yeah, I think he's definitely coming around. I do think, him and Braswell's going to make a good middle of the infield next year. Most definitely. So, anyway, I don't know how you feel. I'm not sure you're not going to give me a prediction, but I do think this team's cooked, and I want to say we're hired a new coach at the end of the year, at the end of the season, but I just feel like, they're going to try to use excuses as for the injuries of why this team fell off the way it has.
Well, and it definitely hurts too, Skyland, when you're watching Eric Bakich have the success at Clemson that he's having. And that was a guy that I would have gladly taken as head coach last year.
The thing is, people, for the ones that don't follow baseball like me and Chris does, because there are more score watchers in baseball than there is football, because you can't keep up with 56 games if you don't have the passion for this university of sport. Eric Bakich, when Tanner Holbrook resigned, or whatever you want to call it, because we all know it was either resign or we're going to fire you.
Right.
Eric Bakich was interviewed along with Tom Walter So we have 2 guys that are very successful.
Who was the other guy hired? Sorry, I missed your.
It was Tom Walter that had an interview, and Eric Bakich had an interview. Tom Walter is the number 1 team in the nation right now.
Wow.
At Wake Forest. And Eric Bakich is at Clemson. He was also interviewed. But Ray went with Kingston. So, we're just a little punch in the face right now.
It's tough.
So, how do you feel about if the season plays out the way I expect, not you expect, how I expect? Do you think Ray or the board or whoever's in charge, because we don't know, will there be a change of leadership made?
I mean, I want to say yes. It's tough to say, Skyland, but man, I mean, the noise will be so loud. It'll be so loud because this is it for Kingston. This is it. I mean, this is truly it. If this season, if it continues the way it's trending and what you have predicted happens, which very well could happen, I mean, this is it. This will be the final nail in the coffin, I think, for Mark Kingston. So,
anyway, before I go, I got one question for you.
Yeah.
I know you saw Cole's tweet and what happened last night. How you feel about that?
How do I feel about like the actual event that took place? How do I feel about Cole's tweet specifically?
The event was when the place got quiet and somebody yelled, "This is unbelievable," and Cole's parents chased that man down.
I mean, per Cole Messina, I guess again, I wasn't there. So, I mean, I per Cole Messina, though, that dude was talking crap to his mom, I guess, or whatever. And his dad was, dude, it's just.
Oh, yeah. If you're talking crap about a kid to a parent,
yeah,
I understand. But if you're just yelling, "This is unbelievable,"
yeah,
you got to have some tough skin there.
Yeah, no, it's just. I mean, I tweeted a little bit earlier, man. You'll be able to cut the tension with a knife this weekend at Founders Park. So
I tell you and everybody a story right fast. Noah Hall mom hates me. Noah Hall's mom hates me. Absolutely cannot stand me because I posted her son's injury in my group before it was released. Probably was dumb on my part. I told everybody he was out for the year before they released it because she wanted to have positive hopes that he gets to pitch again. But his mom hates me, and I try to explain to her that this ain't Little League no more. This ain't high school. Your kid's not protected by a brick wall. This is a young man that plays at a high level university. There's no gray area. So people are going to talk. Kids do out here. Someone's going to see it and someone's going to post it. So I just feel like parents needs to be more understanding that their babies will always be their babies. But to us, to the ones that spend a lot of money going to games or live hours away and still makes time to go, we deserve a say-so.
Indeed. Skyland, I appreciate the call, man. Very well said, and hopefully it gets turned around soon. I appreciate it.
All righty, go Cox.
Go Cox. Take care. Skyland Davis, man. Again, you guys continue to keep it coming. The calls, questions, comments, venting here on this Hump Day, guys. We're going to jump into a quick break. On the side, I want to continue to hear from you. More of your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Watch your Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, are back. Taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Let's jump back into our questions. We got a text here. If Dontavius Braswell comes in and rushes for 1,000 yards, will the running back coach still be seen in a negative light? Well, as we've talked about before, my friend, winning cures all, and I think production will also most likely cure all in that regard. So if that were to happen, I think it would certainly take off some of the heat. Let's jump back to the phone lines, guys.
Call from
Will from Dirty Myrtle.
Will, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Good, man. First things first, let me give a shout out, a birthday shout out to Robbie Davis, not only the Zaxby's Hall of Famer, but the TDC Hall of Famer as well. Hope he has a good birthday. Not sure how old he is, but happy birthday, Robbie. Secondly, what a disastrous night last night on the bump again, and with the bat, just utterly frustrating, and just sucks because it just seems like, I mean, what was it? Was it 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago we were ranked third? Was it 2 weeks ago?
About 3.5 weeks ago, yeah.
3 weeks. Okay, we were ranked third, and I mean everything just looked, the sky looked, it just looked unlimited, and now it's like, we're not even going to host at this point probably. Is there a chance that Coastal would host and we would go to Coastal? Is that a possibility?
I mean, I think anything's on the table, man, if we keep losing, unfortunately. So it is a possibility.
That would just be crazy. I mean, yeah, it's just at this point, man, I feel like Mark Kingston is if we don't do anything this year, I feel like he has to go. Like, that has to be it. You know what I mean? Like, we can't keep him around. There's a tradition that we have here, and he hasn't really met that standard of winning as far as the postseason goes, in my personal opinion. I mean, he took us to, one Super since he's been there? Is that right?
Yeah, one Super. Yep, that was in his first year with Chad Holbrook's
16.
roster. So
it's 16. Yeah, so I mean, it's not like we're a program that isn't used to winning. We got multiple national championships, obviously, but we're a good program, and it's like you got to put your foot down at some point and make it happen. And Ray Tanner, him being our AD, you would think that he would have the highest standard for this program, considering that he took us to that height. But I feel like there has to be a move made if we don't get to Omaha this year, and it doesn't look like we're going to. But maybe this weekend could be, the weekend that we can turn it around. And I want to apologize to everybody because I bought a Ethan Petrie autograph thing that came from Palmetto Autographs. Shout out to them. And he has had one home run since then. So I feel like I cursed us because when I ordered that, I swear it was about 3 weeks ago. So I don't know. I'll burn the thing if I need to. But
there's some people out there that blame me. They think me going on a cruise, going on vacation was me pissing off the baseball gods, and therefore I'm to blame. So I don't know if it's your jersey or my vacay, but something happened to this freaking baseball team.
Yeah. And one more quick thing. Yeah, I'm worried about the running back position, man. I just feel like in the SEC especially, you can't be a one-trick pony. Even Tennessee, a team that passed the ball a lot, was really good at running the ball last year. And it's something that you really need to have to be able to do. And I just don't know how much confidence I have with the guys that we have on our roster. I know Juju obviously can give you some playmaking out of the backfield, but you don't have your guy. And it's like, is Mario Anderson that guy? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe he is. I don't feel like Dak Joyner is, but you want to hope because he's such a good guy and everybody loves him. But it's like, I don't see him being that guy. So it's like, unless Braswell's that guy, I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, I mean, people don't understand with our schedule, that first 4 or 5 games is critical. I mean, we got a lot of tough opponents in those first 5 games. And if we don't get off to a good start, you know how that could go. So it's like, we got to get out the gates early, and then us having a running game is going to be critical for that. So just don't know exactly what we're going to do or where we're going to turn. But with that, man, I'll jump off here and hear your reaction, man. I'll talk to you later, brother.
Will, I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for the call. Great stuff. Will from Dirty Myrtle. Let me also say this on the call. I mentioned whether it be Will's jersey, his Ethan Petrie signed jersey, or my vacation that cursed the Gamecocks. But Panic Ritter texts him. For those of you who don't know, Panic Ritter was on the same cruise that I was on. Panic Ritter texts and says, Chris, blame me too. I was on the cruise with you. So maybe this downfall is because of Panic Ritter and I. But yeah, so I mean, to Will's point, man, it's frustrating. You know, if the turnaround's going to happen, I think it's got to happen now. It's got to happen now, flat out. It's got to happen now. So, let's see. Let's get back into your questions, guys. Tons of comments. Jeff Gullich says, great first showing with JD. Look forward to seeing more of him. I'm glad you enjoyed it, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Joey 80. Players that we get now may start going to Clemson being there in the SEC. You have to admit that a bunch of these kids just want to play in the SEC. I mean, Joey 80, let me ask you this question. I mean, how many recruiting battles do we really go in? I mean, how many players do we go head-to-head with Clemson with? I don't feel like it's as many as you would think. There's some for sure, but let's see. Bruin Nation says this Panic Ritter Coach Ford. Not quite. Not quite. Lynn Turner, midweek games are different. Pitching is different now. We don't have our usual midweek starters. Pitching let us down last night, but neither of the Elis nor Hicks nor Becker were available. Good point. Good point. Lynn Turner roster has changed tremendously since week 1, pitching especially. Guys coming back from injury will not be as hot as they were. Hopefully it starts clicking tomorrow. Indeed. Austin Gregory, speaking of striking out on running backs, 2024 4-star Peyton Lewis received a crystal ball to Tennessee from J.C. Sherwood at 12:19 p.m. today. I texted J.C., was also told that Peyton Lewis is not even going to visit South Carolina anymore. So, Austin Gregory also says, riddle me this. What better time to fire your running backs coach than when his room is practically empty and there's no fear of anybody transferring out? Cody Gaskins, I'm still a better pitcher than Kate Austin. My goodness. Bruin Nation agrees with Austin Gregory. Austin, now's the time. Hire a guy who can land 2 while the 24 class can still be saved. He says now's the time. Get a legit running back coach to land these guys. June is a big month. Craig Godwin says what we can't do is get an out when we have 2 outs. They scored 6 or 7 last night with 2 outs. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of runs we've given up with 2 outs. Crazy. Here we go. Hayden Lee says, Hayden says, honestly, I would promote Monty Lee to head coach if Kingston gets fired. Hayden, I hear where you're coming from. I would not do that. JG Lashley says, we won't host a regional. We're losing this weekend. Classic 0-2 in Hoover, and we're getting knocked out of the top 16 easily. Here goes Panic Ritter. Parents need to stop being babies. As long as you don't threaten them, it's fair game. I mean, come on, Panic Ritter. Panic Ritter also said, I hope Kingston is a moving truck, he says. I'll personally order him one. Brennan M points out in the TDC Questions channel, the Crow is way more chaotic with everyone on one chat now. It really is, and I love it. I think it's hilarious. Lynn Turner says to Hayden, no, Monty Lee has already proved he's not a head coach. Promoting him would be no better than what we've got. Lynn Turner also says small ball is a thing. We need to be better at it. For sure. I mean, Panic Ritter. Do you think Kingston knew that the fans are up on his ass? I'm sure he knows, my guy. I'm sure he knows. Football Frank tuning in. Happy birthday, Robbie Davis. Let's see. Austin, in 3 weeks, we're going from the third best team in the country to the third best team in the state. That's insane, to be honest with you. Bruin Nation says, if we go to Coastal and lose, this fan base will personally burn down Kingston's house. My God. Frank says 3 weeks ago, Kingston was a god. And then Skyland replies, he was never a god. The success was all Monty Lee. Hayden Yu says Juju equals speed, scat back. Mario Anderson, Braswell equal power. He says, how hard is this for people to understand? Maybe the answers are already there. Maybe the answers are already there. Austin Miller says, if Rattler struggles early, do you think we could see a Doty or Sellers? I mean, Austin, think about this. Think about the struggles that Spencer Rattler had last year, and he never got replaced. I don't think Spencer Rattler could play poorly enough. I don't think he could. I don't think there's even a level he could play at that would be poor enough to get him replaced. Because I don't think he can play worse than he played last year. I mean, at 1.5 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Do you really think there's a chance he gets replaced? Dale from East Tennessee says, me and Beck broke up. Rebecca replies, I broke up with you because you were smoking weed and meth. My God, things are getting sideways on TDC. Will Hall says, we all did something. I said this might be the best bullpen we've ever had after the Florida series. Brendan M says, Cody is still a bigger slapdick than anyone in this chat. Oh, Travis says, our fan base and team are imploding. Let's see. Frank says, I got South Carolina over 6 for minus 125. Come on, boys, 108 days. Dale says, I'll take you to Shoney's, Rebecca. This is so, I love this, just going through these comments. This is incredible. Rebecca says, vodka with sweet tea and no smokes. Dale an asshole and everything. I don't even know what that means. Anything. John Eber Kruger says Rebecca versus Dale cage match. I hear you. Guys, incredible. Electric stuff in the comments. Brendan M says he wants justice for BDD. Justice for BDD. Are y'all team BDD or you team Rebecca? Panic Ritter says, Chris, don't worry. You should go to a game. Don't worry. If anyone tries to fight you, I got your back. I watch WWE. That's via Panic Ritter. Thank you, Panic Ritter. Will Hall says, if we do end up looking for a new head coach, having Ray fielding another baseball hire is going to be hard to watch. I mean, that's... It's a good point. It's a good point. It's a good point. I don't know, guys. It's tough. It's tough. This fan base is in disarray. Literally, I don't think we've seen this fan base this on edge since the week after losing 38-6 to Florida. Ironically enough, who did the football team play that upcoming weekend? What turned around their season? dismantling the Tennessee Volunteers. Maybe history repeats itself. Guys, let's jump into one final break. On the side, we'll close out the show in style. More of your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Final 10 minutes or so here in the Daily Crow, taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. What will the Gamecocks do this weekend? We'll break it all down tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow you can basically think of it'll effectively serve as the normal quote-unquote podcast. We will put out full game preview tomorrow. I'll break it down in that first hour. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I'll lock in my prediction, all that good stuff. In the meantime, let's jump to the phone lines.
Call from
Dave Garrett.
Dave, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Hey, bro, it's hot as the Dickens down around Isle of Palm, just smoking today. I would welcome Clemson into the SEC because it would just enhance the matchup, like you said, but also it would take away their easier path to the playoffs that they've enjoyed so much. And I wanted to give you 5 Gamecocks that I'm looking at, and the first one's already hit you funny bone one time today, and that's Twitty. Number 4 is Knox. 3 is Rattler. 2 is Robertson, and 1 is Loggins. Those are the 5 key ones to me that I've got my eyes on.
I like throwing in Robertson and Loggins at the top, man. I like that.
Well, I mean, like I said, those are, to me, 5 key pieces.
I'd agree.
And I would gladly welcome in, if it were up to me, bring in Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Florida State. 2 10-team divisions, play 9 games in your conference, 3 from the other side. That would give you 12, and just get rid of the damn cupcake games. But
could be fun.
As always, man. Huh?
I said that could be fun. That could be a lot of fun getting those guys in there. And more good
Yeah,
games.
I
more
like quality football, bro.
Yeah, more quality games. Yeah.
Yeah, I like quality football. And is it true that the game time against Furman has kind of been leaked out?
My good friend John was looking at his season tickets a couple weeks ago, and it looked like it had 7 o'clock on there for Furman. So, yeah, we'll see.
7 o'clock is what I heard.
Yeah, that might be a glitch, but that also might be they already know and they released the time early or what have you. So, that would be awesome. Man,
Yeah.
I could definitely see it being like that 7 o'clock SEC Network Plus type of game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hearing, man. Is what I heard was 7 p.m. on SEC.
Yeah, and
Network
I mean,
Plus.
who wouldn't take that to get a night game? Why not?
Right. But I'm thinking that the North Carolina game is going to be at night. Because if you look at everything, all the other games surrounding it, why not bring game day to Charlotte?
Good point.
There's not a whole lot of real marquee matchups. I mean, Clemson and Duke is on another day. And I think Florida and Utah is on another day. So I think we'd have a shot at it. Anyway, man, be good and careful, and I'll talk to you soon.
Dave, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the call. Yeah, that'd be something, right? Night game for South Carolina, North Carolina, that opener. And yet it does look like Furman. It does look like Furman is going to be a night game. So we'll see. Jeff Guller says, hey, Chris, any chance we can get a road to glory on NCAA in June and then season sim in July? Well, Jeff, here's what a lot of it's going to depend on. How far into the month of June does the baseball season go? If baseball loses in the regionals, God forbid, and we've got the whole month of June kind of wide open, Jeff, I could very well see it. That could be a thing for us, no doubt. If baseball makes an unprecedented run, unexpected run to Omaha, then we'll be talking baseball until the 3rd, 4th week of June, right? So it really just, Jeff, it really just depends on that. I think we did the Road to Glory thing last year, actually. We did. You know, it'd be a fun one, Jeff. What if we did Road to Glory with Nicholas Harbor and like we were a true freshman? That'd be cool. That'd be a fun one. That'd actually be and it'd be different, right? Because we're not playing quarterback or whatever. I don't know. I think that'd be a good time. I think that'd be a good time. So, Rebecca said she's calling in. Rebecca, fire away. Go ahead. Brewer Nation says John Edward Kruger's available. God, y'all crazy, man. Y'all are wild. The chat has gone off the rails indeed. David Barnes says, ready to see us beat Clemson and Garnet Black White throwbacks. Hope we get them at 7:30. Lock it in 35-30. Carolina going to beat Clemson. David Barnes is locked in. Pete Thamel reporting Tennessee is in the early stages of exploring building an entertainment district on campus that connects Neyland Stadium and Thompson Bowling Arena. Think an LA Live type setup for college, which is believed to be the first on a college campus. Is that not also what Carolina was considering doing? Something like that? That's the way it's going, man. I mean, you think about it. You think about it. College facilities, think about 20 years from now, how crazy college facilities are going to look. Here we go. Let's jump to the phone lines.
Rebecca.
Rebecca, what's going on? How are you?
Good. Long time I've talked to you.
It's been a while. It's been a while indeed.
Me and Dale broke up because he cussed me out up and down my back and everything. And he got too out of hand with him doing illegal drugs, which was weed and meth.
Weed and meth. Sorry to hear that.
So, no, I am not no longer with Dale. I am single, and I'm going to probably be single for a while. I ain't in no rush.
Hey, that's probably the best thing, Rebecca. Just focus on yourself. Just focus on yourself.
The chickens are doing good.
Love to hear that.
Everything's good up here in Tennessee.
I'm glad to hear it.
I went to Dollywood this past Friday.
How was that?
It went good. Oh, I got to see Dolly Parton.
Wow, what a legend.
Yeah, I got to see Dolly Parton. She was parade. I got pictures.
I love that.
I don't care to send. You want?
Well, Rebecca, I'm glad
Is
you've
that
been.
all right? If I,
Say it again.
I said, is that all right if I send you pictures that I've got?
Oh! I thought you said you took pictures. You're going to send me pictures of Dollywood. That's fine, Rebecca. You can do that. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. That's what I was going to do, or
Okay.
put it on Twitter, either one.
Twitter would also be great. Twitter would also be great.
I didn't get to go up in front of her to shake her hand or anything, but I got to see her in the parade that she does every time she comes to Tennessee. When it's a pretty day, she'll come out and wave at all the people and stuff like that.
That's incredible. That's cool. That's cool. Glad y'all had a good time. Well, Rebecca, it's great to hear from you. We hit 3 o'clock. We're going to close out the show, but I appreciate you calling in. I'm sorry to hear about you and Dale, but it sounds like it's for the best. So enjoy your time single. Focus on yourself. The right one will come along, Rebecca. I can assure you, the right one will come along.
Right. And that's what I'll need to do is focus on myself.
Just focus on yourself. That's it.
All right. Well, it was good talking to you, Chris.
It was good to talk to you as well, Rebecca. I'm glad you're doing well, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
All right.
All right. Be good. Appreciate you, Rebecca. Great stuff. What a way to end the show, guys. Again, thank you all so much, everybody who tuned in. All your questions, comments, calls, of course, appreciate you. Also, thank you to JD PicKell of On 3 Sports. Great conversation today. Excited for JD to join us each and every single Wednesday as we move forward here on TDC. Again, guys, be sure you go subscribe to the podcast, The Spurs Up Show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Of course, the podcast version of everything drops at 5 o'clock every single day, Monday through Friday. If you're on YouTube, which of course you are, if you're tuned to this show, be sure to click that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notifications for when a new show drops, when new videos drop, and for when we go live as well. Guys, other than that, hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will talk to you all